From WTDG Toledo, Bridges, with your host, Donnie Miller, connecting our community with information about issues and opportunities.
Hey, good Sunday morning and welcome to Bridges. I'm so very glad to have you with us today. You're going to be glad you're with us today as well, because you know what? We have one of the most dynamic young national leaders in the Democratic Party with us today. Her name is Monica Talmadge, and she's actually chairholder in the Young Democrats of America organization, the DNC chair.
I am the DNC woman of the Young Democrats of America.
Oh my God, that's such a mouthful.
It's a huge mouthful.
But tell people what that means. We couldn't get all that on the screen, so we're going to let Monica tell you what that means.
What that means is that the Young Democrats of America are allotted three positions on the Democratic National Committee. We have our national president. We have, and to include gender parity, we have a DNC woman and we have a DNC man. And I am the DNC woman of the Young Democrats of America. I'm from North Carolina, and my counterpart is actually from Illinois. He's from Chicago, Illinois. So we always say that we have a little bit of the North and a little bit of the South.
Exactly. You're the first African-American woman to hold this seat, as I understand.
Yes, ma'am. In 80 years.
80 years? What's that feel like?
At times it can be overwhelming because I recognize that I have a tremendous responsibility to those people who come before me, as well as to the women whose shoulders I stand. But at the same time, I try not to let that overwhelm me too much. I still have a job to do. I still have to represent young women across the nation to the Democratic National Committee and understand and make sure that their voices are heard. So the one thing that I try to do is just continue to do my job, and when I have awesome opportunities like this, it's a reminder of the history that I am being able to make.
One of the reasons I'm so happy that you're here is that we see over and over and over again such a lack of participation by young folks in this democratic process. And even for that population that is participating, we see their numbers declining over the years. What is that all about? What insight are you gaining from folks as you're traveling around talking to people?
Well, two of the things that I see, it's kind of a very flash in the pan type situation. When you have young people between the age of 18 and about 25 years old, they're either completely interested or they're totally disinterested. If they're disinterested, it's because they don't see how politics directly affects them. They don't see that when they're in college, that those student loans that they're getting, if there is a move or a shift in Congress, that affects that student loan.
Absolutely.
They don't see or understand that if there's a major movement in terms of our defense policy, those young men who are in ROTC, all of a sudden now they start getting moved into more leadership positions. They come out of college and they want something to do. They're interested. They've reached out to that particular base of themselves where they want to get active and they want to do something. They want to do something positive. So then they go and get active in the Democratic or the Republican Party, but then they get to be about my age and they start to slow down and they get married and they have a family, and those priorities they have to take precedence. And then we see a big lag in when they get active again. They wait until they're in their late 40s, sometimes early 50s, when their children are a little bit more self-sustaining. What we have to be able to do is encourage those young people to stay active all the way through, make it family friendly, help them understand that, yes, bring your young children. Their young children can play on the floor or sit at the table and do their homework while mom and dad are in a meeting. And I think that's going to go a long way to help the next generation of those who are going to be politically active engage in this process.
See, my concern is that the process, all of the processes of civil liberty that depend so almost entirely on participation can't wait for people to adjust their lives for the process.
Right.
We are at grave risk of losing any potential impact that affirmative action might have moving forward. Case before the Supreme Court now that's going to make all the difference in the world, and we'll probably find out in the next week or two. There is real information that says, or real data that says in communities of color, Black and Hispanic, that we are losing those men at an alarming rate to prisons, to drugs, to all kinds of things. And women are actually becoming what I call Amazon women in those communities because we are doing it all. And those kinds of things have to be addressed by people your age.
Absolutely.
Have to be addressed by people your age. So, and I feel like, quite honestly, as we talked, I got to tell you, I'm still tired because of our conversation last night. I went to bed way too late. But the as we spoke about in our previous conversation, people before us, I mean, we really do stand on some formidable shoulders that have made some incredible sacrifice. And I feel a whole lot guilty that we are not as aggressive right now. And it has to come from folks your age. So how do we inspire them? I mean, we can make the process more family friendly, but have they forgotten how far they've come, and don't they see how far it is yet to go?
I think there's also a certain level of complacency. I'm not going to, come all the way up here and lie to you. I think there's a certain level of complacency that we'll wait for somebody else to do it. Right. Well, there is no somebody else. You are the only somebody else. And you're going to have to stand up and take that mantle of leadership and take on that mantle of standing for something or falling for anything. You know, Dr. King said it best. If you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. And unfortunately, in this day and time, there's a lot of stumbling stones out there that you can trip over.
Right.
So we have to be a lot more vigilant in keeping our eyes on the prize. We have to be a lot more vigilant in keeping our eyes going forward, understanding the big picture and not pixelizing the message, and making sure that we take that to the masses, because you're right, we're at critical mass right now. We are at critical velocity, and we have to either take off or we're going to hit a snowbank.
You're right. But the good news was when President Obama ran his first term, you saw young folks turning out in numbers you had never seen before.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that makes me think that if the message is right, if that people can be energized. And maybe it's the body politic that...
I think it's the message is right and the timing is right.
Okay.
I think we were at a place in 2008 when, and I remember, I was a little kid, but I remember in 1992 when Bill Clinton ran for his first term in the White House, there was an energy and there was a shift that even I remember, and I remember it being palpable. And my father, who's very conservative and was conservative then, even he had a certain glimmer in his eye in the fact that it was a new generation taking over, if you will. And I hate to use the term taking over because we're not really taking over anything. All we're doing is we're picking up and running. We're picking up the baton and running.
For it, yeah.
So it was a new generation of leadership moving the baton forward. And then in 2008, here comes this young man with this young family from this very progressive city, and we know how politics in Chicago can be, and we know that if he can survive that, and he can survive anything. That's right. And we kind of latched onto that, and we're like, okay, he's going to take the baton forward. And now the question is there going to be a shift when someone my age, and I have no problem being a Southern woman saying that I'm 33, because Southern women don't tell their age. Is there going to be? Do we have to wait for another shift for someone my age to pick up the baton and move it forward? I hope not. I truly hope not.
Because what do you lose while you're waiting? What do we lose while we're waiting? Goodness. I mean, the losses are staggering.
Absolutely.
The potential loss is staggering.
Absolutely.
One of the things that we say an awful lot in this town, and you're here, we should mention to people that Monica is here to speak or she will have spoken by the time this show airs, at the Perry Burroughs Democratic Club Black History Luncheon. It's an annual event, always well attended, always great speakers. You are, I'm certain that you will have a wonderful time, or you will have had a wonderful time at that event.
It was great. It was
lots of people there. So, one of the things that we always say, and I say this an awful lot on this show, if you didn't vote, I don't want to hear it.
I don't either.
I don't want to hear it. You've got to get out and you've got to vote. I don't want to hear the complaints about, people not allowing you the opportunity to get ahead, the complaints about not getting enough money to survive because of tax issues. I don't want to hear it. Your power is in your voice.
Absolutely.
And you've got to use that power.
Absolutely.
The power's in your vote, and you've got to use that vote. But we still see that being an issue as well.
I liken
young
that
folks.
when I talk to college students especially, I take it back to their econ classes, because a lot of students have to take a basic econ class. And I said, you understand how a corporation works? Yeah, I understand how a corporation works. Well, you have shareholders. I said, you have annual shareholder meetings. If you don't vote, that means you don't get to voice how the movement of the country
works.
is. You don't get to do that.
That's right.
I said, look at it like this. Let's just say Nike had the opportunity, if you were a shareholder in the Nike Corporation, they gave you millions of places to go and exercise your vote. They had early voting, and they had 12 hours of voting on that particular day. Would you go and exercise your right to vote, to tell the corporation which direction it would go in? And I get, yeah, of course I would. I said, then why won't you go and vote for your elected officials?
You know what I think that's all about, frankly? I think that, and I see it here in Toledo all the time, I think that politics is over here and the electorate is way over here.
Yeah.
I think the chasm between the two is amazing.
You're right.
And we don't know how to hold those elected officials accountable, and because there is no accountability, they simply are not responsive in an awful lot of ways. We've got some critical issues here going on in this community right now. We have crime, which gratefully I hear is a little less right now than it has been. Unemployment, we've got declining neighborhoods because of foreclosures, the same issues. I mean, as the nation goes, so does Lucas County. So anything that you see as a national concern, we're seeing right here in Lucas County. Ask me what they're fighting about at City Council this week.
What are they fighting about?
Water bills.
That doesn't surprise me.
The mayor pulled the water bill of city council people. I don't understand all of that. You know, I don't care who got a shut-off notice on city council. What I care about is how they are responding to the needs of our community. But, you know, they can fight about water bills because we don't hold them accountable.
And we don't go to those meetings either.
That's right.
By and large, I mean, the last city council meeting I went to, and I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina. First of all, our city council meetings are held in the middle of the day. And I'm like, and you know, the big, massive meeting is held at 7 o'clock in the evening, but where the real decisions are made are 2 and 3 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And unfortunately, while I would love to be there, I have a job and I have to be at work. So it's very difficult for me to go and sit in and to speak on certain issues.
Right.
And I feel sometimes certain decisions are already made before I even get there.
But we need to require more from those people that we elect. And the only way that we can require more is if we are part of the process. It's the only way that we can require more. I know that education is a significant passion of yours. The importance of education is something we've talked about for, we've talked about for a long time. I'm going to ask you a few questions about that when we come back.
Absolutely.
So you'll stay with me?
Certainly.
All right, great. We will be right back in just a minute. Go nowhere.